Hey everybody, welcome back. Do another episode here. I guess we're gonna kick on and talk a little bit about common problems with Ford. I guess if this podcast actually starts taking off, I'll start doing videos on YouTube on my channel right there of showing you in-depth stuff, inside the shop right there. It depends on how well I do with this. But anyways, common problems. I guess if you got a 5.0 Coyote in your truck, and you're using more than 2 quarts of oil, using a lot of oil consumption, pay attention to that. If you're using 2.5 between oil changes, it's an oil consumption problem. And if you got an extended warranty, there's a good chance you'll get that covered through them. It's a process. It takes about 3 months to get it done, but it can work. See, 3.5s. You got 3.5 and an F-150. You're going to have probably leaky turbos. It happens in those. You got that VCT rattle. You got a little bit of the cold start rattle, and your cam phasers on the front of your cams are rattling. There's a spring in there, and that spring will come off a latch. It'll cause a rattle on cold start, and they revised it with a later part, and they caged it in. Now it depends on when your truck was built. Depends on if you've already got the revised part or not, but I still don't mean you can't have the rattle. If you got an EcoSport 1.0 and you got an oil life or an oil light come on, you have broke your oil pump drive belt. What happens on these is the ribs come off the belt, they go into the pickup screen, and they starve the top of the head, which usually burns up your turbo and stuff too. Let's see. If you got a Ford Escape 1.5 and you're losing coolant, and you can't find it nowhere, when you have coolant intrusion, and usually it's typically between cylinders 2 and 3, you'll get coolant intrusion, and it'll pit the block is what it does, and it goes and starts dumping in your piston wall. And then later on, it starts dumping out, and you just burning it off. So another common issue, I guess, with let's get back on the truck, the 3.5, the F-150 with the 3.5. The degas bottle, right as it comes out of the bottom, has a retainer clip. There's an O-ring in there, and that O-ring will start leaking. So sometimes that becomes a problem. Water pumps sometimes become a problem. If you got the old Explorers that's got the old 3.5s in them, they have internal water pumps. So if you're having issues there, like you're losing coolant, there's a weep hole in behind the alternator. So pay attention if you are losing coolant and you can't find it. It's around the alternator area. If you see it dripping right there, then you'll know that it's the internal water pump in that. 1.6s in the Escape. 1.6s, when they go bad, they just go bad. There ain't no helping that. There ain't no maintenance, preventative maintenance you can really do on that. I feel like it tells you when you go to a dealership or whatever and you get your oil changed in, they do it every 5,000 miles. What it tells you, the intervals. I wouldn't do that if you had a turbo. Your sticker will say every 5,000, but I'm telling you on turbos, I do it every 3,000 because you have pickup screens in these turbos and you'll clog them up. That's why they thin your oil out, so they can get through these screens and get through your VCTs and stuff. That's why your oil is like 0.20 and stuff like that, 5.20. It's just got thin oil in it. Let's see here. 2 O's, same thing. Edges. Ford Edge, it's got 2 O in it. You'll get coolant intrusion in those motors too. Same thing I was talking about on the 1.5s. It'll pit the block, and we have to do a motor in those too. I've been having module problems with Ford Explorers. All-wheel drive modules been going out. You'll get ABS lights, traction control lights. I've been having a few issues out of the CCM on them too. The cruise control module, it's in the front of the bumper. The bracket will break, and it'll have an issue trying to line up with your windshield. And you'll get a light for it too. Talking about your cruise control. But as far as common issues, that's about what I run into. It seems like on a daily. A lot of trucks, stuff going on with trucks. Not so much like wheel bearings, but you get IWEs, integrated wheel ends. Those right there will, they're a plastic gearing for your four-wheel drive. They'll bust, and they have a hard time. They'll stick is what they'll do when they crack. They get that plastic when it busts and cracks, it won't go back in, so your four-wheel drive will actually stick. I don't have any, like I said, any wheel bearings. I don't really have an issue with that. They had that issues with them out of the older ones, but not so much out of this one. I don't have any. Ford has a. Every now and then you'll get a spark plug. It'll crack on you. A good way to determine that is obviously it's stuttering and going on. But if you give it a lot of power and it puts it under a load and it starts sputtering real bad, you get a real bad misfire. That's usually a cracked spark plug, but it could be something worse. It just depends. But as far as common issues, I pretty much nailed all of them that I feel like that I run into on a daily. You get the occasional stuff here and there. The old school F-150s, like the 5.4s and stuff like that, they wasn't really the best motors. Ford had just that one motor. They put it in everything, so it's a hit or miss motor. There really ain't no fixing that one because the timing runs through the front of the head and the rear of the head. And it has a cam basically for the timing that runs to the bottom of each one through the motor. So it's not kind of a crappy motor really, but other than that, if you have that one and it starts messing up, man, I don't know. I've had it. It could be wiring to anything in your TCM to a PCM. Those things were hit or miss, but you did get a lot of mileage out of them, so you can't really fault them too much. Seems like all your newer stuff you're only getting to around 100,000. So it is what it is, If y'all are on any of my other channels and stuff, start leaving some comments on them, and I'll start catching on and start talking about if you're having certain issues or whatever on your Ford. Obviously, I can only speak from Ford for the most part because I've been working for Ford for a pretty long time now, so I run into their stuff quite often. I'm a master tech through Ford, so it just depends what you're running into. I can give some pretty good advice, without getting too deep into it, because some things you have to monitor and watch bids and stuff like that. But for the most part, if it's something common I've ran into, then I'll try to answer a question. But thanks for tuning in.